I'd like to call a Township Committee meeting to order. Aileen, will you lead us in this flag salute, please?
Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sound like the old cast iron gladiators.
Steve said everything was fine.
This is a test of our national broadcast system.
You're all now instructed to get under your desk. Those of you who are told to be, remember that.
We can't call for a moment of silence either, so. How's everybody enjoying the new
Parking lot.
reupholstered
yeah.
pews? They're comfortable? Finally, we didn't have to set up folding chairs.
I don't know.
Just bear with us a minute, folks.
It's your computer. Yeah, definitely your computer.
BFF just texted me.
Probably stop, but then you'll be able to use it.
Good. Tom, next time he comes down, bring you over.
Somebody have a cell phone close to you?
It's not that. I don't think. Roger.
Hey, all right. Okay. Mrs. Anderson, would you read the certification, please?
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by emailing a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the Press of Atlantic City, Atlantic County Record, Record Journal, current newspaper stating this meeting would take place at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, December the 1st, 2014, in the municipal building, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Mrs. Dix?
Here?
Ms. Gatto?
Here.
Mr. Gouchard?
Present.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mayor Silva?
Here. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please have a moment of silence for private reflection, and also try to keep in your thoughts and prayers Officer Brian Miller, who was injured during a apprehension last week, and also Committeeman-elect John Kurtz, who was hit by a car last evening. He's in the medical center in Atlantic City. He's going through quite an ordeal, so please keep that in mind. Now, it's with great pleasure that we, in our program now, we have Hamilton Township Honorary Member, a presentation of Michael Rock. Michael, will you come down front, please? And will you be joined by your daughter and son?
Spin them around. Perfect.
What I just say, Chris probably represents the last of that greatest generation from World War II, so it's an extra special honor.
Yeah, let me just say that this is a real pleasure to honor Mike. He's been a fantastic member of VFW 220. He's one of the people that actually shows up at meetings, and he's done so for quite a while. He's always enthusiastic, and he's an inspiration to us all. As you guys probably know, he's a World War II vet, which is fantastic. Just a few things about Mike. He's originally from Hutto, is that the correct pronunciation? PA. He was inducted in the United States Army in 1948, was a member of the 680th Glider Field Artillery Battalion. I wonder if that was actual gliders. They actually.
Oh my God, we took jeeps up on it and heavy weapons.
Wow. He was a paratrooper from the 17th Airborne Division. He was deployed in New York from August 44, that's about the time I was born, to December 45. The 680th fought in the Battle of the Bulge and received the Presidential Unit Citation for their service in Operation Varsity, which was an airborne assault on the Rhine. During his service, Mr. Rock received the following awards: European, African, Middle East Defense Medal, 3 Bronze Battle Stars, Victory Ribbon, Good Conduct Ribbon, American Theater Service Ribbon. Mr. Rock returned to the U.S. and was honorably discharged in 1946. After his service, he met his wife Julia in 1948, and they moved to Edison, New Jersey, where he worked at the Ford Motor Assembly Plant. They raised their 4 children, Diane, Andrea, Connie, and Michael. Mr. Rock is now retired and lives in Mays Landing. He's a member of the American Legion, Post 254, the VFW, Post 220, and he's actively involved in the 17th Airborne and the Ford retiree events. Once again, it's a real pleasure. Mike, I'd like to do this on you and your report. We call this the greatest generation, and there's a reason for it. I'm a member of a National Active Retired Federal Employees group, and we had a meeting where we had actually 7 World War II veterans. And they were telling us the stories of what it was just unbelievable. The stuff these guys went through, I mean, they were the greatest generation, and we all appreciate it. Yeah, okay.
In addition,
Don't forget my jump wings and glider wings, that's another one.
All right.
we could get engines for those cars. Michael, Township of Hamilton honors and remembers its veterans. On this day, December 1st, 2014, the Township of Hamilton honors Michael Rock in recognition and grateful appreciation for his service in the United States Army Airborne in the name of freedom and democracy. For the sacrifices you made, for your willingness to serve our country, Michael Rock endured hardship and was willing to risk his life to maintain our freedom. On behalf of the Township of Hamilton, we offer our heartfelt thanks and gratitude and signed by all attendees.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for this honor.
It's our pleasure.
Well, I have the privilege
Roger,
myself, and I have
bring
to
Nicole
thank the
up from
governing
the
body, because they always
Nicola,
allow me
Veterans
to
Advisory.
participate in these events. And on the state level, I can tell you that sometimes Trenton can be a tough place. But when it comes to people like Mr. Rock, who's done so much for our country, sacrificed so much, and when you really know about these glider guys, these guys are no joke. I mean, they were up there with gliders. You wouldn't catch me dead one of them. And they had the courage and the bravery, and so on behalf of the State of New Jersey General Assembly, it is my privilege to be able to present you with this recognition for your service, thanking you for your contribution and everything that you've done. God bless you.
All right.
Nicole from she's the chairperson of the Veterans Advisory Board. Nicole, did you want to say anything?
Well, anyway, they had a good, they were gonna show how good the gliders were. They had a program up in St. Louis, and they took the mayor up and a bunch of dignitaries and generals, 10 people went up, plane pulled them a couple thousand feet up, let them loose, the wing snapped off, everybody was killed. And they're gonna show them how good the glider program was.
These brave guys got it anyway. I'm sorry.
And then, not only that, we took 906 gliders into combat over to Germany. They could only salvage 140 and 906. We had one plane full of 2 gliders into combat. We were 3 hours in the air, and so General Gavin was watching us going in from the 82nd. And he counted 23 planes shot down at one time, not counting them were scattered all over. And I lost an next door neighbor, you know, on that landing.
Well, we are privileged and honored to have you here, and none of us will forget what you've done for us. We want to point out we have some Veterans Advisory Board members here, of course, the chairperson, Jim Powell. There are got some VFW members here also.
And I know Chris Brown is leaving, but Chris left us all a legislative update for the township regarding a lot of the work that he's done on the roads. And Chris, if we have any questions, we'll get back to you, okay?
Thank you. We're trying to set out for you. You have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Next item on the agenda is the ACUA budget presentation. Rick Dovey's here from the ACUA, and the other gentleman, your name?
Brian?
Gary, I
Gary.
had asked Rick if he could try to hold the presentation down as quick as you can. Just give us our rebate checks and you could leave.
Thank you.
He's quite a guy, isn't he? Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
What was your last name? That's what I thought. Thank you, Gary.
here for our annual report on the solid waste budget and rates for the coming year. Everybody is receiving a copy of the report card. I'm not going to go through the details in it, but it just has the history of your tip fee costs for past years for solid waste and other waste, and how much recycling, both yard waste and regular traditional recycling, has been done, and then it shows, the bar graph shows the recycling rate in comparison to trash produced. Just the thing to note, this year you had a significant amount of increase in other waste, and I believe it was street sweeping waste that you brought to us that probably wasn't brought in the previous year. So that shows the increase in tonnage, and that's the increase in price. Our tipping fee is proposed to go up 2% this coming year.
Rick, could you back up, please, just to what you just said about the street sweeping waste? Is that considered dumping as opposed to recycling waste? Which category did it fit into?
It fits into a waste disposal. It wasn't a recycling material.
Thank you.
So that's shown in the second column. It says other waste, and you'll see
See it.
this year it's projected to go up from roughly 600 tons to over 1,000 tons. And I understand that that's probably most of it. You also may have had a bulky waste collection that you authorized through your
Waste management.
Waste management, so that probably also is in addition to. So those may not be every year events, so you may go back to the sort of normal solid waste production. And as I said, the proposed rate for municipalities for next year is $62.20. That's less than the gate rate for regular commercial waste, $67.50. And we've made a projection about how much that would cost. Of course, that's a projection into next year, assuming a certain amount of waste, not increasing significantly over last year. So that's that information. And the other piece of paper that you received was the letter that you all, I'm sorry.
I was curious on this yard waste tonnage. I noticed that this year it went down somewhat from previous years where it was higher. Is that because of the derecho? Or is that what we're seeing?
I imagine that was the reason you're sort of back to where you were before the impact of the derecho and Hurricane Sandy, which did cause additional debris, yard debris, and trees and branches, and the municipality. And we see that uniformly around the county, the impact of those. So that probably will go back to similar numbers this year.
I'm also, though, quite surprised that that number isn't steadily higher since 2011, because that's when we got rid of the loose leaf collection and went to strictly the vegetative waste collection offered by the county. So that's telling me that I think residents aren't really taking full advantage of the program, I would say.
Well, I think that's something that we try to get across in our public education efforts, and I know the municipality does
Right.
also. That is a way for folks to actually participate and save the township and the taxpayers money. So the more that doesn't go in the trash and get charged at a higher tip fee, the more savings realized, and it is recycling, and it counts towards.
Rick, how does the recycling rate for our township compare to other,
I would say you're about normal, so in the middle, and you're obviously, I would say half the towns are higher and half are a little higher than you are.
That's also another kind of disappointing
It is,
number.
really.
Because we're going in the opposite direction than we really wanted to be going. And, so I think we need to really take a look at our plan next year and initiatives to increase recycling even more so than our efforts since we went to the automated can collection.
Well, we'll do whatever we can to assist.
Great,
and-
okay.
And I think your agenda item later that speak about, but appointing a green team might help you
Right.
Get the word out, so.
have you found that the containers for recycling pickup has not only made it easier for you, but has it gotten people to recycle more?
Well, we don't.
No, I'm just talking generally throughout the municipalities.
Residential participation has been rebounding a little bit everywhere, almost uniformly throughout Atlantic County. I think the significant effort, and it's important to point out, these numbers don't relate to the amount of trash and recycling happening in the commercial sector. So,
Okay.
shopping centers and malls. We've been working with the township recycling coordinator very aggressively this past year on working on all the businesses in the Hamilton
Township.
Township to report how much is recycling. A lot of recycling is happening there, and it should, and they're
Yeah.
required to by law, both statewide and your own ordinance, and enforcing that and making and educating folks. The ACWA spent a significant amount of time this past year at this major commercial establishments in this. People, when they get around to it, and you go, oh, we're required to do it too, but think of, I do this, my wife doesn't like that I do this, I drive behind the stores to see how much recycling is and so forth. So we're making headway. I think it was a good start this year, and that's another thing that we will continue on in the coming year. And those numbers should be reported to the township and go in with your tonnage grant information.
Okay.
And so we're making that clear to the commercial establishment.
And especially since you made it easier for us too, because you don't have to separate your recyclables anymore.
Yeah, single stream has helped a lot, and the word is beginning to get around, and people are beginning to understand the benefits and how much easier it is.
Good. Thank you, Rick.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rick, before you go, when did you go to ACUA?
I have two terms there, but one.
Original.
As president, I've started in June of 1990.
Go-
24
Go back before that.
24 and a half years. And then earlier in the early 1980s, I was there for 2 years and as a staff person.
Well, my original meeting with the ACUA was in 1978 in Atlantic City. So I have a long time working with that organization, but more recently under your leadership. And I'm just publicly thanking you for the courtesy that your organization always shows me. You know, you and I have a great rapport, and whenever I think there's something going on, excuse me, in my town that you need to know so you can adjust your trucks accordingly, I tip you off to that. I will continue to do that. It's usually just a couple times a year, but I appreciate the courtesy and the cooperation the ACUA has given to me over the decades. Thank you.
And thank you, Rick.
Could I ask something? The televisions that are put out at curbside, I know they're not accepted in any form, for recycling. But we take them to the Public Works. Is that part of our, does that go into our recycling?
That does not go through that recycling. When the New Jersey passed the law on electronics disposal, banning those sorts of things from going into the landfill and being picked up for the trash, they put the financial responsibility on the private sector, meaning the stores that sell the material and the companies that do it. There's been a breakdown in that system. First couple of years, the stores were funding and even giving grants to municipalities and in some cases counties, and they stopped doing that. And now there's basically been a breakdown statewide in the system to accept it. Now I'm not sure whether the township has to pay to get dispose of those now. I believe that, but this is if Chris was still here, I would talk to him about it. It is a problem that is, and all the other things that have happened in the state of New Jersey, hurricanes and recessions and so forth, it just hasn't bubbled up to the top. But it is a real issue for township governments because it gets put out on the curb, somebody's got to pick it up. Somebody's got to get rid of it. Right now, it's costing money to do that.
Were you going to comment on the county ordinance that I sent to you today?
I will. The county just a week ago approved the freeholders on the second reading, so it's approved. An ordinance that now allows the ACUA to collect trash, not recycling. We already have recycling from state agencies in Atlantic County. Previously, we have been limited only to doing trash collection from municipal governments, period. In a number of municipalities where we collect trash, the municipality has chosen to bring the school district under their wing, under their contract, and then they work out a financial thing between them. And then we collect the trash. So Absecon, that comes to mind, Egg Harbor City, Pleasantville, Linwood, almost all the towns where we collect trash. That's what's being done. The sort of hole in the system is the regional district. So in Linwood, though, we collect the trash. We don't collect trash from mainland regional because it's a regional district and it's not under the city of Linwood contract. We addressed that in the discussion with the county freeholders and the county executive and the county SWAC as a whole, sort of a hole in the system. They chose not to incorporate that. So why? I think the private sector didn't want that to happen. So what that means in this area is the regional school district still contracts out trash collection. It's too complicated because of the municipalities involved. And so there's different, so the municipality or the ACUA cannot pick up from the regional schools, Buena Vista, Greater Egg, and mainland.
The state government, the state offices within our township, if there are any, they could be.
They went and did an interlocal agreement with us. Yes, they could.
So it's only a state agency that would be housed in Hamilton Township that would be affected by this from our concern, from Hamilton Township's concern.
Correct. The driving force in this were two things. Stockton has an interest in having the ACUA collect their trash from their facilities, the main campus in Corona, and the RDA does.
Okay.
Good, Amy.
Mr. Mayor, just one question, going back to the annual report card. The item under other waste that did jump from 2013 to 2014, from 600 to over 1,000. I would be interested to know exactly what that root cause is, if we could maybe ask Mike to.
Gary has that
Work with the
information
staff.
with him. We can leave it with.
Oh, okay, great. Because I think that would be important for us to know as we kind of put together our priorities for the next year if there is an issue we need to address.
Thanks, Gary.
Oh, thank you. Can I keep this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What say you?
Everything it's,
Don't do that. You'll talk for a while.
I got it at the public hearing.
yeah, everything it's billed to the town. This is all, it's a summary of everything that's
Okay.
paid for by the township.
Okay, thank you.
Everything it is in trash or yard waste goes in that other.
Thank you.
Rick, thank you very much.
All right, happy holidays.
Same to all of you and your
Yeah,
staff. Thank
too.
you. Next item on the agenda is adjourn to executive session. We'll do that at the end of the meeting. There'll be a confirmation. Addition or deletion of late items for consideration tonight.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Early public comment on agenda items not listed for a public hearing.
No one has signed up, Mayor.
Thank you. Number 5, discussions. Formal action may be taken. A, proposed amendment to Chapter 238, property maintenance to be consistent with Public Law 2014 C-35 will be 1779, 2014, if introduced. Public hearing to be December 5th. 15th, I'm sorry, excuse me. Michael
Or Bob.
or
Well,
Bob?
what I want you to know is that I presented to you this evening an amended ordinance, which I believe contains language which is necessary. The yellow part is what I added from what was in your packet, and that language comes directly from the statute. In order to impose a penalty for a violation, you have to first impose the duty. So I worked with Phil on changing the language to do both. Since this is different than what you had previously, you may A, choose to defer, or B, move to introduce. But I believe that this late change, albeit late, is a necessary one.
But if we introduce tonight, we can still have a public hearing in 2 weeks.
Correct.
If we defer from tonight to a future date, it would be in 2015.
That's correct.
What's your pleasure?
Is there anything else you want to explain on what these changes are?
Well, I explained this before, but I'll be glad to do it again. The state legislature has adopted a bill which requires that when a lender files an action in foreclosure against a residential property, the lender still has an obligation to maintain the exterior of the property. And if they don't, and on proper notice, there are very substantial fees as high as $1,500 a day. In addition to that, the statute requires that the lender, if they're out of state, appoint an in-state agent for purposes of notice and effectuating the obligations under the statute. There was an article in the paper about 2 Sundays ago about zombie properties, and this is really addressing that. My gut tells me that when the banking industry wakes up, it's going to be challenged. But right now, you have the option of doing this, because in Hamilton Township, you have a very fair to large number of properties that could become zombie properties.
Just a question I have, I think we'd mentioned this before, but the size of the fines is so large, and I think sometimes what happens when fines or prison terms or whatever are so large, they end up not being enforced. I just wonder whether it's advisable to have amounts, $2,500 a day for one, $1,500, and you mentioned up to $1,500. This actually says a fine of $1,500 for each day.
You're right.
It doesn't say up to.
No, I misspoke. You are correct. It says $1,500.
Yeah, so my question is that really advisable to, I know this is in the law, but it seems like it makes it tough to enforce, or it would make it tough to enforce.
I agree with you, Rodney. I think that when you do this, first of all, the purpose is to incentivize the foreclosing mortgagee to do something, and that's a good thing. On the other hand, it assumes that they're aware of the number of these properties, the location of these properties, and most importantly, the condition of these properties. I can tell you that I know of no mortgagee that's going out there on a daily basis evaluating properties in foreclosure. So I get both sides of it, and I think you raise a very legitimate point. Now, the other thing I would say to you that is under our current maintenance code, there is a discretionary fine for the owner of the property. This ordinance and the statute providing for this ordinance is addressed toward the lender who is in foreclosure.
Or
Now-
who completed the foreclosure? The
No.
lender is in possession or not?
after the judgment of foreclosure.
And the sheriff's sale,
No?
before the sheriff's sale.
No, I'm not, it's not after the judgment of foreclosure, it's once a foreclosure complaint has been filed.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to be clear on.
Yeah, and now what happens is, and I've told you this before, because of the large number of in-rem foreclosures and the large number of foreclosures in the state of New Jersey, it takes a long time from when a lender files a complaint in foreclosure to going to sheriff's sale. And what the statute is addressed at is trying to require the lenders who may or may not have equity in the property to maintain the exteriors of the property. But Rodney, I agree with you, it's a hefty number. And so the statute says what it says 1,500. And our current ordinance on property maintenance, as it relates to the owner, gives the municipal judge discretion.
I think it's important to have a large amount because
Get their attention.
the banks do not really move.
They don't do anything, you're right, Judy.
If, hey, pay the fine, and, okay, if it was $200 or $100, rather than sending someone out to do what is necessary. So I think it's a very incentivizing
Good.
fee.
Yeah, I agree.
What's your pleasure?
I would propose to introduce as presented with the added fines.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
This is going to be 1779, Joan?
Yes.
It
Okay.
says we will be.
No, I'm looking at Bob's, it doesn't have it on there.
It says it on your agenda.
Mrs. Dix,
Yes.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes,
All yes and carried.
thank you. Okay, next item is the snow and ice plan and HOAs. Aileen, you asked to put this on the agenda?
Yeah, and I asked Bob Sandman to be aware of this because of the planning process approves developments, and the developments are then required to have homeowners associations, but I don't think there's a clear understanding of how a homeowners association forms. The developer is the one who forms it and is in control. And gradually, Bob, and if I'm misspeaking on one of the points, please, I want the record to be clear. The developer has all the seats at the outset. As the houses are sold, the homeowners earn seats on the board of directors until it reaches some point where the developer turns over control to the homeowners association. You're with me so far? I'm
with you.
correct?
Go ahead.
At what point, if the homeowners association becomes in control of the association and the budget, et cetera, at what point is the developer completely out of the picture? Is it at any time prior to releasing the performance bonds and posting the maintenance bonds?
If you're talking about condominiums, that's controlled by a whole different set of rules.
Homeowners, not condos.
Well, condominiums still have common roads and
Understood.
same obligations. And that is regulated by what's called PREFTA, and it does provide for a phased-in control of the board of directors. In the perfect world, what you said would apply to homeowners associations as well. But what we have seen is, in some cases, the developer will have sold 90% of the units and there's still not a homeowners association formed. In other ones, we have are formed. So where they are formed, as the sales on a certain percentage are made, control and the number of seats on the board of directors, in theory, is going to shift to the homeowners. So that's the theory, and that's what really happens. They're two different things.
And the reason this is being explained this way is to lead into how is the people living in the houses, how are they receiving communication from the homeowners association as to the status of anything to do with the project, including, and this really, Rodney, I brought this up because of our conversation regarding the snow plowing policy. How, and I did message with one person, an acquaintance of mine who lives in a housing development, not a condo, as to what communication she is receiving, and the answer is like, at the end of the year, to do with the budget, would you like to run for the board? And that's really the extent of it. And my point was that Rodney seems to think the homeowners associations is keeping all of the homeowners in all the houses informed, and I don't have that impression at all. I know in the past, the Woodlands had a closed-circuit TV, and they would post notices to their residents, but that was a condominium association.
Yep.
Homeowners are entirely different, and I don't know, if you go into any one of the developments, I don't know that the average homeowner has any idea who's responsible for their streets or for snow plowing or anything. And that's why I wanted to make it brought out into the light so we all get some kind of an understanding.
How a homeowners association operates is completely up to them. The requirement for a homeowners association generally derives from the decision and the resolution of the planning board giving site plan approval and subdivision approval. And the obligation of the homeowners association is to control, maintain, and otherwise regulate the common areas and the limited common areas. What they do by informing the folks that live there ranges from 0 to 100. Each one is different. The obligations of a homeowners association are typically found in the closing documents. And the obligations of the homeowners association vis-a-vis the people that live there is typically also found in those documents as well as the decision and resolution. Generally, they are required to maintain the common elements until such time as a common element no longer becomes a common element. For example, the dedication of the road. That becomes then a township obligation. How and to what extent they inform their people, I would be guessing.
And what this person indicates to me is they find a piece of paper in their mailbox. Here's the budget, and would you like to run for the board? And other than that, there's virtually...
Do they have monthly meetings?
I have no idea. I didn't.
Well,
But
I will
is
tell
it the
you.
role of government for us to regulate how a homeowners
right.
association should be
No.
communicating with their
No, I
residents?
think she's-
Amy, the purpose was, it has tied directly to the snow plowing policy and what streets we're responsible for, which ones we're not, which one we will be in the future, and it's triggered by conversations that we had in our subcommittee meeting of quality of life.
Okay, well,
So-
you're not clearly communicating all of that, Eileen, so I'm
I'm
very
sure
confused
there
as
isn't
to what your
anything I've said
question
for 3
is.
years that's been clear to you, Amy.
What?
There
Yes,
is no connection, excuse me, Rodney, between snow plowing policies and how a homeowners association runs itself. Connection with respect to snow plowing only comes to fruition at which time the municipal engineer signs off, the bonds are released, and formal dedication occurs, period.
And the maintenance bonds are posted first.
Subsequent to the release, or at the same time
Yeah.
as the release of the performance bond. Rodney, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, just for a point of clarification, my point was that, not that the homeowners association are doing a good job at it, but it's their obligation, it's their responsibility, that was my point, to do that job.
And it's also, I think, the residents' responsibility that if they have association meetings, just like we have township committee meetings, if people want to be informed up front and live, then you come to the meetings, because it gives you a forum to ask the questions and make inquiries. And I don't know, I haven't attended an association meeting in a lot of years, but years ago when I did have property in a place where they had an association, first thing I did when I bought into that property, I said, give me a copy of all the rules and regulations. Some places they're that thick, and some they're thicker, okay? Just like it is with the reserve and everything. But if you're paying a monthly maintenance fee living in a subdivision, you want to know where your money's going, just like the people who pay taxes, they want to know where their money's going. They should be attending meetings. And that's the forum, and I understand what you're saying, Aileen. But
Well, when it snows and the roads don't get plowed, the phone calls are going to come to town hall.
Well, they
And we
do.
can avoid part of that if there's a communication.
we don't get a deluge of them, Aileen. Most of the people are pretty well aware of it. I think what has happened in the past, and please forgive me for this, there's been a lot of roads that were paved plowed that never should have been plowed. They were done 8 and 10 and 12 years ago for favors, okay? Now that everything is run open and above board, and things are put on the right footing, that's the way it's handled.
Roger, I will point out, if you'll allow me to, that a prime example of this occurred this very week. I received a request from the developer
I know you did.
of a development. And in that development, the top coat of the roadway is not yet installed,
Yeah,
which means you have water mains that are 2 inches exposed, you have curbings, you have other installations that are exposed. And the offer was for the township to go in and do the snow removal and they would allow a township lien on the remaining 8 or 9 lots still owned by the developer. I issued an opinion to Michael saying that would just be plain stupid.
We got that, we all got that letter.
You all got that?
Yeah, I got that letter.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's an example of what we're talking about. As your legal counsel, you can't take on an obligation that's going to cost the other taxpayers money for the benefit of some, as much as you want to do it. That's what I have on that.
Bob, the other part of what I discussed with Phil, and I know Phil has talked apparently with Brett and Sue, was the issue of volunteer way, because the township is responsible. I think I sent you an email on that.
You did.
I went out there and clocked it a day or two ago, and the township is responsible for approximately 2/10 of a mile from McKee in behind the Shore Toyota area, and you can see the seam in the street where our obligation ends, and from that point all the way to the cul-de-sac, which is another half a mile, before you get to the 107 houses that are in the Renaissance Drive horseshoe with the other 3 streets, that if we don't plow our part of Volunteer Way, how is the developer supposed to even get back there? It's almost like an isolated development. So I've been assured that we are plowing the entire Volunteer Way to make sure that there's emergency access, besides the fact that I know there's vehicles on call, snowplows on call, if there were to be an emergency out there, that they could get through. But until these things came up in conversation and we looked at the maps, the questions didn't get triggered. Reading the files and reading the documents triggers questions, and that's the one that came to my mind. Those 107 houses are like in the middle of nowhere.
If a truck is going to plow a development and they can't get there, I would think they would drop the plow to get there.
There's a portion of the way that the township owns.
But I'm just saying, you got a plow
Portion that it
truck going
doesn't.
out to plow.
In order to get,
I think they'll figure out how to get there.
you're saying the same thing I am, and that is in order to get to the portion that we own, you may have to plow a portion that we don't own, but it's
No,
a...
our portion's the first portion,
Is it
not the second
first?
portion.
Okay. But in either way, you've answered your own question, that they've agreed to do that, right?
Well, I found that out in a phone call today.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Aileen?
Mm-mm.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is appointment of a green team. Rodney, you asked to have this on the agenda?
Yes, I did. I think as many of you who regularly attend the meetings know, we've had a few discussions about the participation in Sustainable New Jersey, about the advantages of doing so, and about the requirements for becoming a participant. There are a couple of requirements, one of which is that the township needs to indicate, sign a resolution indicating their intent to achieve certification, and the second is to establish a green team. We passed a resolution indicating our intent to participate, but we did not establish a green team, and that's what this is for. We have several members, in fact, of our green team here, and I would like to propose that that the green team consists of the people who have sent in their applications, and some of whom are here today. Once again, an advantage of this is that we will become eligible for awards, for sustainability awards, not huge amounts of money, but amounts of money that are very helpful to the team and that can help us achieve some of our goals. Mr. Covey mentioned the fact that some of our tonnages are going down, or aren't as high as, our participation rate in recycling is not as high as it could be. This is an area in which the green team could certainly help. In fact, maybe that's a challenge that can be taken on for this year. In any event, I'd like to propose that we establish a team. I'd like to propose that the members who submitted their applications and who have been regular participants in the green team meetings, which have gone on since, I guess in March or so, that these people be appointed. We had some discussion on whether it should be in terms that are 3-year, 2-year, and 1-year terms, or whether we should initially just make appointments for a year and then go on from there. I guess I'm amenable to either one.
You need to rotate.
Yes, well, we could try it for a year and then decide the best way to go. But if we have a proposal here for 3 for 1 year, 2 for 2 years, and 2 members for 3 years, I think it's the pleasure of the committee how we proceed with that.
Well, Rodney, did anybody submit applications for this?
They all submitted applications.
We have
yes.
no copies of them.
We don't have any.
We don't have any
The
paperwork. Do you have
applications,
them? We don't have a copy of them.
all right, the applications are on file. I guess the copy was not included in the package.
Not here.
But the names are here, and...
We don't have the names either, Rodney. This is all we have.
I think that these names that he has listed on this paper should be submitted on the next agenda with the applications and the rotation of 1-year term, 2-year term, and 3-year term. Name the people for each of those seats and seat the board so they can plan to start for January.
Well, the other thing is, since you're going to do it January, why don't you wait till reorg to do it and give other people in the community a chance to submit an application to see if they want to be part of it, as we're doing for other boards.
I don't see a reason to wait and to delay it.
I don't see a reason to wait also, particularly since these applications for funds, that they go throughout the state. And the earlier you can get your application in, the better your chance of receiving it. And I know the team is ready to go, so I would certainly like to do it as soon as possible.
I know when I visited the table of, the sustainability table as the exhibit in the New Jersey Municipal Alliance, they handed me a form and said, hey, if you have a resolution already, they are eligible to make application for a $2,000 grant without any further ado. Yes. The one person I was talking to was was on the Environmental Commission, and the Green Team was a subcommittee unto their Environmental Commission. But she said everyone does it a little differently. There's no real form, just the Green Team is necessary for more grants, but, I think this doesn't spell out any of the duties of the Green Team and who breaks a tie and so on.
But
and
when
so
writing the
forth.
bylaws become after the fact, when you set up a board, after the board is set up, they adopt their bylaws? I think that's,
I don't
and it's
know.
an odd number of people, there shouldn't be a tie.
And the general responsibilities of the Green Team were included in the certification or in the resolution that we passed a couple of meetings ago. Also, these team members, their names were mentioned earlier, also were in packets earlier. And I guess the feeling was that we have a group of people here that have been consistent, that have been interested, and that have been at the meeting since March. So I guess it wasn't.
If I can just, I think, actually, Eileen, your suggestion is probably the best, because number one, we do have a process that is an ordinance that states that anybody who is interested in participating on any of our boards, teams, commissions, whatever, does have to submit an application. We all usually receive them right away when we get a new application.
Right.
So I'm actually shocked that we don't have copies, so that we can see who is interested. So I think we have to at least allow for the opportunity for us to see the applications that are here, and then, potentially be able to appoint it at the next meeting. I do think reorg is the best time, because that's when we're appointing all the other boards and commissions, but if there is some sense of urgency, I think, Eileen, your suggestion to get the copies and, make the appointment at the next meeting is at least reasonable, in conjunction with our ordinance for volunteers.
All right, the copies, then we'll make sure that you have copies at the next meeting, and we'll have recommendations for the 3, 2, and 1-year terms.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, that would be good.
And I just
And
want
they
to
can be put in our mailboxes tomorrow. We don't have to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do that,
They're
too.
usually put right in, so I'm very surprised. But I also do want to state for the record, Rodney, that nothing's going on behind closed doors, because you're mentioning that the green team that we have in place is sitting here, and we haven't had a vote on that, and it's an informal green team, I think, is what you're referencing. So I just want people to know we're not voting on stuff behind closed doors.
That's right. And
Yes,
it's the same name that was submitted, well, not submitted, but mentioned a few meetings ago. All right, thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is D, resolution urging the governor and the legislature to recognize and preserve strength of local pension and health benefits when considering Governor Christie's Pension and Health Benefits Study Commission final report and recommendations. Mike?
Yes, this resolution we're asking to support the resolution where the municipal pensions are well-funded, and the state pensions are not as well-funded as the local ones. So when the commission makes its report, their concern is that they'll somehow commingle those, and they want to just draw attention to the fact that they are two separate funds, even though it's one pension system. So I think there's validity to supporting this.
Are you suggesting that there's about 5 pension systems: teacher's pension annuity, police, fire, public employees, legislative, and I think judicial? Are you suggesting that the Trenton is merging the funds of all 5 into one investment portfolio, or that they should be kept in 5 separate portfolios?
I'm not making any suggestion. This is a resolution that the league sent out. But what their concern is,
What is going on?
the concern is that there are 5 different pension systems, and actually there's one pension system. The funds are commingled, but they want them to remain accounted for individually, so the strength of our pension system stays sound.
Yeah, but this makes a distinction between the local commitments for local employees and retirees
Right.
and the commitments that the state government is responsible for. And obviously, they fall below the par in a level of acceptability, in my estimation.
Their funding levels by percentage aren't as high as ours.
Yep.
So we're just saying, as you study this, keep that in mind, that, the strength of our system, so.
So Mr. Dressel is asked for a resolution of support.
I so moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes?
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Selby?
Yes.
All yes and adopt.
Thank you. Item 6, public hearing on ordinances. A, 1778, 2014, amending Chapter 301 of the Township Code to create a stop sign intersection at Pinehurst Drive and Buttercup Lane. This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to speak? Hold it, Jim. Come on down. Just introduce yourself for everyone's benefit. Some of us know you, but
My name is Robert Carlin. I live at 1 Lewis Drive. It is a homeowners association, the Woods Landing Homeowners Association. Since a good portion of our property touches Pinehurst, I thought it would be worthwhile to express my opinion that a stop sign at Pinehurst and Buttercup is not a smart idea. Unfortunately, I drive that about every day, and I slow do 25, which is the speed limit. I see children playing who refuse to get off the road, and basketball courts on the wrong side, et cetera. But that's not the real problem. A stop sign is not going to stop the speeding on Pinehurst, and if that's what the intention is, to put a stop sign, it isn't going to work. I really recommend, I wish you could put speed bumps in, but that's not going to be allowed. So I'm simply saying.
Robert, this is
I'm in
phase,
favor of it.
this is phase one. And Chief, do you have a moment, please? Come on down, and stay there, Robert. I think this is the first of the phases, because what you just said is going to be a continuing of it. Go ahead, Chief, would you explain to him?
Yes, when the issue came up from residents on Pinehurst, there was multiple concerns. It was a speeding concern about the kids that were on the playground. So there were multiple issues. A study was done by our traffic coordinator, and that was also, I believe, forwarded to Mr. Smith. It was determined that, yes, there is a speeding problem there, but there is also a concern about the kids at the playground. And it was recommended that we put a four-way stop there because it's right before the playground. So traffic that's traveling towards where your development is would have to stop and then proceed through the intersection. As you know, on the right-hand side is the playground area. So as the mayor was saying, it's really a multi-step process, and this was the first step. There was also recommended to have speed bumps in there. But again, that's going to cost some money to do that. But the recommendation was a multi-step process.
And the speed bumps will be further down on Pinehurst. So obviously, the drive is to try to get people to slow down. Now, there are people that go over speed bumps, and they don't care if they knock out their eye teeth. You know, they're going to do it anyhow. Obviously, and I think that the entire purpose of doing this is to address a serious issue. I mean, that became a speedway, Pinehurst, and we know it, okay? I think, look, even with the signs out there, people still speed because, you know, unless you have a patrol car out there with radar, okay, or some speed device to see how fast they're going and you ticket them, sometimes, you know what else you find out? A lot of the speeders live in the neighborhood. And I think the chief will tell you that from experience, but I think the continuation will be something we're going to address and try to do next year, okay?
I would only say to you that there are approximately 165 homes in the development now. Ultimately, we'll have 140 when the development is finished. However, an informal poll says through among all the residents, and this is not exact, but an informal poll says maybe no, they would not be in favor of it. So I felt
Okay, and
as a member of the board as well as a homeowner, to come and tell you we would not be in favor of it.
Okay.
Just,
Go ahead, Rick.
just thought I'd mention, as you're probably aware, if you're traveling on that road on the west end of it, particularly toward 322, it's got natural speed bumps, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I also see people swerving around those natural bumps.
Well, that slows them down, maybe.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately.
Look, it's something that,
Combination.
something that even though you make awareness, it becomes something people become aware of. The fact that there would be speed bumps in the future. I mean, you could set the speed limit at 5 or 10 and people wouldn't even adhere to it, okay? The idea is to do something, just like coming in the main road from there. Look, we have to address it in this community. We've got issues all over. We've had a number of people that have been injured, okay, over around the shopping mall. A lot of people drivers are inattentive. They might be texting, they might have a distraction, and a lot of the pedestrians aren't paying attention also. I mean, if you grew up in a city like Rodney and I did, it was always the cross at the green, not in between, and there was jaywalking, do you recall?
Of course.
Okay, and of course, they taught that in school, and they adhered to it. Today, people don't care. They cross wherever they want, they do whatever they want. So I think it's the beginning of something that'll create more enforcement, and hopefully there'll be the benefit that you don't see right now down the road, so to speak.
I appreciate that. I would simply say, I see too many people sliding through stop signs anyway, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's
no.
another issue.
And the chief knows it. The chief knows it, so,
I would just tell you, our feeling is we're not in favor.
okay, and we're not doing it to aggravate anybody, okay?
But the whole other community on the other side of Cloverleaf have been fighting this issue for a long time.
Quite vocal about it.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, when I come in off of Route 50 or off of 322, and I see people who live in that development speeding also, I want to go, "Hey, guys, you're the ones who complain about it, but you're doing the same thing." There's no easy answers for this.
It's every neighborhood.
Let me tell you what the answer is, and I joke
Is it
about it, make it a
mostly
toll
young?
road. Then nobody will use it, right, Robert? Huh? But kidding around. But I appreciate your input, and we do take it seriously. And hopefully, over time, it'll make a difference.
Is this it's already been decided, or are you still?
No, it hasn't been passed. It's the ordinance. This is the public portion right now. Okay?
I'm not in favor, okay?
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
input. We appreciate it. Now, Jim. Thank you, Chief.
How far down is Buttercup Lane from Old Harbor Road?
It's right there as you come in if you were to turn in.
It's right at the playground. It's the arcing street right at the playground between Old Lake Harbor Road and Pinehurst. Very short street with only about 4 houses on it.
No, you're thinking Sweet Gum.
You're right.
It's one more. Yeah.
And I think Judy's right. I mean, if you listen to the residents on that side, especially the ones that live closer to the playground, they do are concerned. This is a public hearing. Does anyone else in the public wish to speak? It's a public hearing. Anyone in the public wish to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments to that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Put a motion out to adopt the amendment 1778-2014.
I have a motion. I'll second it.
Second.
Judy, second.
Judy, did you want a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Judy? Okay. Any questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment that I do hear the objection from the Woods Landing homeowners and did have some discussions with some of them, but I think the work we've been doing in that area and the plan that we have, I think doing something rather than nothing is the best course of action.
Yeah, I'd like to say pretty much the same thing. In fact, my feeling was the same as the gentleman's about that stop sign, but I know we've had many discussions about what we can do in the area. I know what the homeowners on the other side feel, so at least it's worth a try. Give it a try. You know, we can always change it if it doesn't appear to work, but I certainly understand what you're saying.
Mrs. Anderson?
Gotta find room to write. Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Robert, and thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is B, 1780-2014, authorizing the chief financial officer to execute certain legal documents pursuant to the Small Cities Mortgage Plan. 1, the amendment to delete Section 2 requiring recording of the ordinance in the county clerk's office, and 2, it's a public hearing if the adoption is amended.
You have to vote on the amendment first.
Okay. First of all, Michael or Cindy, you here? Do you have any comments about this? No? Counselor?
Yeah, the amendment comes as frankly a mistake that I made. And it was brought to my attention that this type of ordinance does not require being recorded in the county clerk's office.
Okay.
So it would require a revision removing that first, and then you can move on the
Okay.
public hearing.
All right, so 1, the amendment to delete Section 2 requiring the recording of the ordinance in the county clerk's office.
So that's like literally this section 2?
Yes, Section 2.
Okay, so we'll make that motion on that amendment.
Section 2 is already gone, right?
Yes.
Section 2 was already removed from the
You
copy on
have
the
an
table?
amended copy
We have the amended
of it.
copy.
The
Okay.
original one had the
And
requirement.
It's out of this, so.
It's out of what you're
Okay.
looking at.
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
So I have a motion?
So moved.
No, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Okay, so number 2, public hearing.
On this item.
Huh?
On the one we have in front of us,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to speak?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
A motion is second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to adopt.
Second?
Motion is second. Questions or comments?
Yes. There's
Go
a
ahead, Ed.
philosophical difference here, that people got these loans when they were in a time of need. And as their circumstances have changed and they're in the process of refinancing, they come here and it doesn't come to this township committee for a decision on whether we would allow a refinance to occur with us moving our staying in second position, continuing the subordinated loan. I personally think if people can afford to refinance, they should pay off these small amounts that are usually under $10,000, maybe even under $5,000, that we should not continue to allow subordinations and to carry this on the books, which jeopardizes it if they default later on their refinanced loan. So I oppose this as it is presented here. I do not think there should be any subordinations. I think that there should be a payoff of the small cities money or CBDG money, call it whatever you want. It's federal money that I think should be recaptured here and put back into our pot, that we can lend it out to someone else in their time of need.
Any other questions? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix,
No.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
4 to 1, it's carried.
Thank you. Item number 7, introduction of ordinances. Public hearing December 15, 2014. The alley between 12th and 13th Street, Block 785, and consolidating lots 2 through 5 of Block 785 for the municipal auxiliary parking lot. Michael, that's the, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, this is the new parking lot across the street,
Yep,
consolidating the parcels and eliminating the paper street.
okay. That's all it does, right?
Yeah, it's between
Yep.
12.
That's your pleasure.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Second?
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in-
Mike's tonight.
Mrs. Anderson?
It's yours.
Mrs. Dix,
Yes.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard,
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Okay, item number 8, the consent agenda.
I'd like to move 8A with the additions through P minus M.
Minus M. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Roger, I didn't hear who seconded it.
Who seconded? Was it
Amy
I made the motion.
Second it.
Judy did. Okay, pull out M.
And now I'll move letter M.
I'll second it. The motion is second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I abstain.
Oh, you abstained, that's right, excuse me. Thank you, Amy. There's no personnel approvals. October 7th, 2013, regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. November 10th, 2014, regular minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. C, payroll and bills totaling $1,827,107.81.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix,
Yes.
Ms. Gatto,
Yes.
Mr. Gouchard.
Yes.
Mrs. Link,
Yes.
and Mayor Silva.
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Reports. Mr. Administrator.
Mayor, I don't have anything to add to my written report.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, really quickly, can you just highlight from our consent agenda, letter E, we approved the purchase of radio equipment for public safety, and just talk about kind of the test run we're doing here based on the feedback from the fire departments and other radio-using entities?
Yes. Some of our emergency responders are having trouble with coverage, radio coverage in certain areas and pager coverage.
You're right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I said you're right, because I've been aware of this for more than a year.
And they, so I think what we're trying here is the 800 megahertz. Is that bad?
Go ahead.
We're going to try the 800 megahertz and see if it works for us. So this purchase is a trial basis to purchase a couple of these radios, and if they work, there'll be a more substantial purchase for the rest of them. But they don't want to jump in until they've tried these in all the weak areas and make sure it works.
And I think at the meeting we found there was unanimous agreement among the members to go ahead with this trial period.
That's true. It came from the experts and the members of the board.
And these items were purchased off a state contract.
Come off
right?
state contract, and it's out of the bond.
Okay.
Capital.
Good.
Thanks for highlighting that.
Good.
Man, these mics are crazy.
Yep. Mr. Solicitor. Mr. Engineer.
Mayor, nothing to add to my written report.
Hope you feel better.
Yes, sir.
Bob, could I ask you, the status of Park Road, since the MUA has, has done all of it, a lot of its work, but still has a lot to go. Is it at all possible that the Park Road will be on the repavement agenda? I know it's done in a committee meeting, but I was wondering.
Well, I mean, it's all going to depend
On
on
us.
the amount of capital improvement funds that are allocated. And we have some leftover roadways that we cut from the 2014 road program, in addition to Park, are kind of the basis for our next road program.
It wasn't Park on the 2014?
No, Park was originally on the 2010
10.
road program, I believe.
2010.
And then we delayed it when we learned of the MUA's project to basically rehab the water main in that area.
So therefore, in the, a rotation or in an order, it was supposed to be done in 2010.
Originally, it was one of the candidate roadways, correct?
Yeah. So my point is now looking at 2010 and 2015, and the condition has been made unbelievably worse. I guess MUA is the one that, speaks to all the holes that have been dug and what is put in those holes in order to make it drivable.
Correct. Regardless of what Township Committee decides, the MUA is responsible to maintain a safe condition on the roadway.
So then the MUA is perhaps to be questioned at a meeting.
Well, at this point in time, I think it's probably only temporary restoration. We've had some discussions with the MUA about Atlantic Avenue. I think we're going to convene a meeting with myself, Mr. Blankenship, and his engineer to take a look at the condition of the restoration and kind of determine what's going to be the next step. If Township Committee determines that they want to improve Park Road, then maybe we get a contribution from the MUA in lieu of them doing some permanent restoration. But that's an issue that has to be vetted and decided essentially by Township Committee.
Well, okay, so then it goes to the MUA, then it comes back here.
I think it sounds like it's a mutual discussion that needs to happen.
Correct.
Mike, can you,
I'm just saying that the material that is available with the cold weather coming, is it going to be anything that will
well, we
make
probably wouldn't
make the road drivable?
Well, I mean, at this point in time, we would not do any reconstruction work
Not right now.
earliest till next spring.
Right.
But they're still obligated to restore the roadway to make it safe and passable.
Okay.
Judy, you a little bit jumped the gun on me, because one of the things I've written down to bring up was to have a discussion of Park Road at the next meeting, which would be December 15th. And part of the reason for it to be on the next meeting is to see how far along they are, meaning the MUA's water main work, by then, but also because there was a comment made, and I understood that Park Road was on the 2015 paving schedule, and that's on a report I think I have from you.
It was,
That it was supposed to be on the paving schedule for 2015. However, a comment was made at a meeting, and that might have been the October 30th Quality of Life meeting, that it won't be paved in 2015. And the reason for my concern, and to bring it up as a discussion at the next meeting, is so that between now and the 15th, we can have some kind of a handle on which paving project will Park Road be listed, whether it's late 2015, whether it's 2016, or if it's never. We need to have a handle on that because of other activities that go on Park Road. But as to Judy's comments about the water main, QC Labs was out there today, and the hydrants were being flushed, which is flushing the new 10-inch main, so they could do the sterilization tests, collecting the sterile samples of water to make sure that the main has been sterilized on the inside now that the main is sealed and filled with water. The next step,
Is it connects?
the next is then each house from the Park Road Bridge all the way up to the skating rink area, every single house then has to be detached from the existing 4-inch or 6-inch, whichever main we're attached to, has to be converted over to the 10-inch. So every single house has to then be connected, and to the new meter if they need to put new meters in. I don't know how long that's going to take. All I know is that it's probably going to take at least into January. They've been working on Farragut Avenue, putting valves in on that new water main, which is where they were today, and that's where they were Friday. So there's just a whole lot going on, which is making, and a fireman complimented today the fact that there's 2 more fire hydrants on Park Road. I said, I was told that it's every 600 feet. So fire safety is going to be enhanced, the water pressures on Park Road are going to be enhanced, everything is for the best. However, people have to be patient that these projects take a lot of time to come to completion. And in the case of the Park Road water main, that was supposed to have been done 15 years ago, and it got put off and put off and put off. And so frankly, Judy, I don't care how long the road stays the way it is, because finally people aren't going past my house 50 to 70 miles an hour. So that's the, I'm not finished, Roger.
Despite that, Aileen, there's a lot, and probably with all that you're spouting out here.
I'm not
we could
spouting,
have-
I'm speaking.
We could have Mr. Blankenship at the next meeting, because what you're saying in one large paragraph could be summarized very quickly, okay? Basically, when the paving comes, we'll be talking to the MUA, and the paving and whatever
It's
we
just-
have plans there can be melded in together. Isn't that what you were going to bring up, Michael?
That's separate from what my point was, but I still want to see it, I want to see it.
And I think the MUA is better giving us that update here.
I want to see Park Road listed on the December 15th agenda as a discussion item, because the decisions on when it's going to be paved is going to impact future use of that road for activities.
We're not going to make
So,
that decision then.
Just so that we're all with you, because you just went in a million directions.
No, I
What
didn't.
exactly, what this policy decision do you want to make about Park Road or have information about? For
I don't
Park
want to make
Road?
a policy decision.
Well, that's what we do here on Township Committee. We make policy decisions. So what policy decision do you want to make about Park Road so we have that information?
What paving plan is it going to be on? Because I'm getting conflicting information.
well, it's up to Township Committee as to what paving program it's on, and there's decisions that are precedent to paving Park Road, which is, when are you going to allot money for the next road
Exactly.
program? So
Exactly.
the
Which is
real
a budget
question is, I think number one is Mr. Blankenship could maybe be asked to come in and make a short presentation as to when they're going to terminate the project, when it's going to be completed, when the settlement period is over, and then we can have a joint discussion with him as to what our plans are going forward. But Township Committee first has to decide how much they're going to allocate to the capital bond for road improvements before we can determine which paving program the road is listed on.
And if the money's not already in place, then it can't be until after a capital ordinance is 2015.
Correct.
Yeah, but I understand Judy's concerned. I mean, you
Of
don't want to
course.
see it get paved, but Judy has some serious concerns also.
We
okay?
all do.
They just
And I
both
rode
want
up
to get
that-
to
People
I
need
ride
to
up
drive
that road.
slowly.
Well,
Right up it as much as you, but I'm up it at least 4 days a week coming into town hall.
I think it
always
was-
come that way, and it is,
You were just making comments about the condition of Pinehurst and the reverse speed bumps on Pinehurst and people slowing down and swerving. So it's the same thing on a lot of streets. People need to drive more slowly.
Same thing on Hickory.
North Street's the same, so, okay.
um,
That's it, okay, Township Committee. Aileen?
We already touched on the Park Road thing, so I'll strike that one. November 6th, there was a decision about painting curbs on Hanthorne and on Heritage and Hudson. And when I asked again today, because it was a beautiful day for painting, I saw them painting at Clayton's Storage. I was told that the police department has to issue work orders for the Public Works Department. So I'm a little confused of when will that be expected to occur. We're going into a weather-related situation where you can't paint if the temperature's below a certain 40 degrees or whatever it is. So when can we expect it, especially Hudson Street? Not Hudson, I mean Hanthorne, because of the school bus problem.
So is it a process question or a question about? the
It's a question of
streets?
when's it gonna happen? But how about the temperature concern, Brett? For Hanthorne? Thank you. I'd appreciate it because it is, as I pointed out, when the citizen made the complaint 4 weeks ago, it has to do with the school bus can't get around the corner with the cars that are parked at the crosswalk.
Of course, when those streets were built, it was many, 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 many moons ago, right?
Yeah, and
They
the,
were
and the,
narrow.
and the school bus stopped on Main Street and picked us up at the Courier's Hardware. All right, that was item number 2. Item number 3, Mr. Jacobs and I communicated probably around this time last year about the number of pays per year. Will there be a notice put in the payroll this week, that comes out this week, to let everyone know that there will be 27 pays in 2015? So when their paycheck decreases, they'll understand it's a 27 pay, not 26. I didn't quite get the whole answer.
Yes, we'll definitely notify everybody.
All right. And the last item is, I attended the GIF dinner meeting on the 11th, which was another presentation by Armando Riccio, and was very beneficial. But at the same time, I also filed a complaint with the Joint Insurance Fund over the leaking of confidential information that Mr. Sandman shared with us on September 4th. And I gave them the attack flyer that was issued by the Kurtz campaign, along with my letter of complaint to the executive director of the GIF. I'm awaiting hearing back from them, but at this point, they have sealed their files and will not allow any further information to be given to us until, I guess in writing, until they figure out how they're going to keep their confidential information from being leaked. That's most unfortunate. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Rodney?
I think the most notable event that I attended was the New Jersey League of Municipality meeting. That was a 3-day meeting in Atlantic City, attended by thousands of people, where municipalities from around the state discuss all aspects of governance. And it provides a great opportunity to share experiences, to share problems, to share solutions, and to get some enthusiasm on some of the things that have worked in other communities. I got a lot of ideas from my participation in it, and I'm certainly going to sit down and think about it and see how maybe this community can benefit from some of the things that I saw there. I also, in Atlantic City, the people that attended there, a lot had a terrible time parking. I don't know what we can do about this as a community, but if we want to have conventions of that size, we're going to have to try to figure out a better way of taking care of our visitors. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Judy?
Yes, I would definitely agree with Rodney on that. I ended up at least walking a mile or two to the convention hall in the freezing cold. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't want to have to do that going back. So I took a bus to the Caesars, and that took us right there where we parked. I also had a very good experience with the New Jersey League of Municipalities. I was actually on my way to go to another venue, and this two ladies were sitting there with all sorts of brochures about art, possible conservatory, information, grants, and so on and so forth. So I picked all those things up, and when we went in, the amount of information was terrific, but the point that they were trying to make is that this type of thing, like, for instance, a conservatory in our community, would bring other people, other businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, that is a very, very good point. So I took this home to my husband, who was interested in, doing something over at the Duberson School as far as a conservatory. So, we're trying to find the roadmap of how to accomplish that.
Let me say this to you. Walking in the cold, whether you went in the parking lot that you did, or if you parked like I did in a parking garage and had to walk from the very far end up, it's just as cold in there. Yes, right at the convention center, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, they should have a few heaters here and there.
Talk about getting gouged for parking. Thank you, Judy.
How come you guys don't ride the train?
I didn't ride the train.
Yeah, I rode the train the second
I
day.
got there early in the morning, 8:30. Amy?
All right, thanks. First of all, I just wanted to extend my sympathies to my old neighbors on Sears Avenue. There was a pretty horrific event there this week, and I just want to thank our police department for their swift action and handling that situation, and just, again, extend my sympathies there. And also want to address and commend the police department on the work and kind of education type things you were trying to do on 322 and that whole shopping area after the recent passing of a young lady there due to a hit in that area as well. And there was a lot of chatter on social media about, what can we do? What can be done? And then the discussion about an overhead walkway came back again, which we've talked about time over time, year over year. And in my opinion is that an overhead walkway just, number one, continues to enable a problem. And number two, if people aren't going to use a crosswalk that's on the ground, I'm pretty sure they're definitely not going to use a crosswalk that requires them to walk up steps. And the issue, I think, Mr. Mayor, you said it earlier, is, people are distracted, they're not paying attention, walkers and drivers, and, poor Jenny Kurtz is out there dealing with the situation right now. And, we just, with the holiday season, we have a lot more traffic here in Hamilton Township, which is great. We want everybody frequenting our businesses. Just want to kind of take this moment to say, keep your eyes and ears open and your hands free, and let's make sure everybody can get to their holiday celebrations this year. Also wanted to commend Oakcrest High School on two very big victories this past week. Our Powder Puff football team, our ladies who played game of flag football on Tuesday before Thanksgiving, kicked Apsagami's butt in a shutout of 20-0, which was awesome. And our cheerleaders, which were a group of guys, did a really great job on the halftime show. And then Oakcrest High School on our Thanksgiving rivalry game kicked butt again, 32-7, beating Apsagami, which made my Thanksgiving table very, very happy on one side and very, very unhappy on the other side. So I'm very proud of my alma mater and wanted to extend my congratulations there. And just remind everybody that our Dickens of a Holiday is taking place on Saturday, December 6th. I know John would probably want to make sure that gets mentioned, so we're going to make sure it's mentioned right out in the park. And also want to wish Mr. Mayor happy upcoming birthday in a week.
Thank you.
And that's it.
How old are you?
You want to know? I was born Pearl Harbor Day.
good.
I'll be
Okay.
73 this December.
Very good, congratulations.
And 40 years and 2 days later came Amy.
Interesting enough, so everyone remembers the sign on Route 40, the paving starts tonight at 8 PM and goes till 6 in the morning. For those of you who haven't seen the sign, they're going to do one lane at a time. But obviously, it's coming at a time when the traffic wouldn't be that heavy as it would be during the day. The other notable thing, Rodney did say, the League of Municipalities, while most of us did attend, we did have Veterans Day ceremony on the 11th, which was well-attended. It was a great program put on again by the Veterans Advisory Board. And I think, like remembrances tonight with Michael Rock, I think those are all significant events. We can't do enough for our men and women currently serving, or those who are veterans who gave up their time and sacrifice, so we appreciate all of them. The other thing, we had a tremendous turnout at the Christmas tree lighting the other night. Cheryl, how many cookies this year?
We had 1,400 cookies.
Oh,
And you exceed,
We had about maybe 100 left.
oh,
you exceeded last year.
Oh, yeah.
It's very interesting because
We ran out of cups. We had 500 cups for hot chocolate, and John had to go back and forth to the store to keep bringing more over.
amazing. It was interesting because just about 6 o'clock when the event started, about 10 of it didn't look that crowded in the park. Then all of a sudden, everyone piled in, and I think, it's a spectacular event. I mean, the children love it. The fact that there was caroling put on by the Davies School and, of course, St. Vincent's youth choirs, and the number of people that attend. And they don't rush out after the lights are lit and the songs are being sung. People stay around and they mingle, and I think that's a great event for the community, as are all the others there. So I hope everybody had a thankful, fulfilling, and happy Thanksgiving. I know I'm still working on leftovers, which is one of my favorite times of the year. I never get tired of turkey, but with that, we'll open it up to the public.
Roger, 1 minute, please. Sure. We got sidetracked on Park Road. I had made a note. Bob, the crosswalk out here was a swimming pool the other day when I came to Town Hall in the rain, and I called into your office. I didn't know you were off. What are we doing? Because that swimming pool was huge, and if the temperature drops, we have an ice skating rink, people will not be able to use the crosswalk. I
On
don't
which
know.
side, the town hall side?
At the steps.
Okay,
At the steps at 13th Street. It was very large.
okay.
Nothing I could step over with my long legs. It was just way too big.
We'll take a look at it.
Thank you. Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome. Cheryl?
Not really prepared, but after listening to you, I have a few things to say. One thing, mainly, I want to thank the committee people and Public Works for helping to make the night, the tree lighting a success. We put a lot of work into it, and
It shows.
to see it.
do a great job every year,
shows.
Cheryl.
Thank you all. The other thing, listening to, of course, you all know what happened with John. And of course, I cross the same as he does, and Jenny with our dogs, to the park. You can't really park across at the crosswalk at the corner because there's too many illegal right turns, people speeding. It's unbelievable when you stand there waiting. The light turns yellow and you hear the motors rev and you see the cars go flying. They see a yellow light and they go faster. They don't slow down, which I was.
That's exactly what I said. Exactly what I said.
Just the opposite. They go through it, it's red, they go through it. We need police there. There's no police presence on Main Street. I would like to see maybe a pedestrian crosswalk further down, like across from the Board of Elections or something.
Mid-block.
Because it would keep us away from that congestion at the corner. My daughter was just telling me she and the boys almost got hit by a car crossing there in the crosswalk with the proper light. And a car came through, made a left and almost got them.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she knew they were, so I didn't even know that, she didn't know anything like that. And she hollers at me for not using the crosswalk, but I said, it's dangerous. You're talking about painting curbs, are you talking painting yellow curbs? Is that what the discussion was about?
Michael?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, we've been waiting for years for our yellow curb to be repainted at the corner of Pennington and Main Street, because they park there illegally all the time. And that's another hazard for us trying to get out in our car or crossing, because I have to go out past the parked car to be able to see.
Cheryl,
again,
that's a state highway, and that's why, when I questioned that before, Main Street's a state highway and we can't paint it, we would put ourselves at risk.
Right.
That was when I had
No,
questioned
but
it
this-
quite some time ago. I also advocated for the mid-block crosswalk that you just spoke about. In fact, I didn't know about John being hurt. I put that on Facebook on Ed Schumann's page yesterday when I first heard about the accident. So I advocate for that. I support it completely. But as far as painting the curb on Main Street, that's a state highway issue, not us. The
But-
curbs that we were talking about are on Hanthorn at the crosswalk, because people parking there, the school bus can't make the right-hand turn off of Main Street to discharge children. And they have to continue down Main Street, which is off their route, which is an insurance problem.
But we have, if I can just, Will Pauls, who's a freeholder, and I have walked out there actually with John and talked about some of the things that we really need to partner between the state, the township, the county, and private business ownership in that whole area. And actually, Chris Brown was here earlier. He's one of the people that we actually talked about the need to not only paint those curbs, but fix those curbs and restore those curbs. So, yeah, so
They
we've,
did paint it, our police department painted it, maybe 15 years ago, yellow. It was done, but it's all gone now, it's faded, you know. The pedestrian signs that they have, you go down Hamilton Main Street, Bellevue Avenue, Route 54, it's a state highway, they have the pedestrian sign. Linwood, you know, they're all over the place. We were told that, Jay Keene was chief at the time, he applied for the state. I have a copy of the letter. They said, no, you couldn't put them there. How come we can't have them?
Well, that's a good point.
They did put them down at Farragut Avenue, and they got knocked over, they never replaced them. You know, and there's another crosswalk that cars just go by, they don't stop. Well, and the illegal parkers on Main Street at our corner,
Put a
both
ticket.
sides. Main Street
Write a
and
ticket.
Pennington Avenue all the time. And you know what? I call the police. I know they don't want to be bothered with parking, you know, illegal parking, but it's a matter of it's a hazard for us to get out the street with a parker. It's very difficult. We can't see. I think we need some help because, I mean, they chase cars in the fire lanes in front of the store. One car, they'll be out there. We can't get any help. We need police to control. I've seen police cars go by. I'm standing waiting to cross, and there's cars parked illegally at our corner. They don't even look, and yet it says no parking. They go right by, and nobody stops. They could be issuing tickets. And I think if enough tickets are issued, people will stop parking there. Then we won't have an issue. So I'd like
Well-
to see something like that happen. I'd like to see a little bit of.
hey, Mike, when will the parking signs be put up on Main Street that we've been discussing?
I'm not sure. I don't have a date.
Because it might be nice if we, to bring attention not only to the signs,
Right.
that if we could in conjunction, put up the new signs and then do some kind of a, I don't know, like a click it or ticket type parking thing, for enforcement.
They have a sign right there, no parking.
No, I know, but Cheryl, we're making signs to make it more prevalent where you can park on Main Street so that we can attract more people to Main Street. So I think if we can say, okay, here's where parking is, in case you didn't know, and be reminded, this isn't
Is this the first you heard of it?
this isn't a, parking area, and, you know, you will be ticketed if you don't if you park here.
Well, I would like to see anything you can do to help us, because it's just not, I mean, I don't want to blame any businesses, but we do have a problem with barbershop. And they just, nobody wants to walk, I guess, you know? And I said, you know, can't you leave? So I said, I even approached someone and I talked to the lady, and she said, oh, fine, I'll move my vehicle. She did. Next week, she's back, parked there.
Ticket will fix that real quick.
Yeah.
A ticket will fix that real.
I'm thinking, if they could get ticketed, I'm sure if enough people were ticketed, the barber or whoever would be going after and say, don't park there, you'll get a ticket.
I just have
Parking
to,
by the fire hydrant, same thing, write a ticket. I know.
I just have to share this experience with you. This happened to me today in New York City. I was visiting my brother. I parked the car, both my daughter and I looked carefully for any signs saying you couldn't park there. We parked there before there were other cars there. We parked there, came out the next day and my car was gone. I had to go to the pound. They put a boot on it. They were charging me $370 to get the car back. It's so.
You'll be careful next time, won't you?
But
Cheaper to get the
the sign wasn't there, or the sign was extremely poorly marked. It's ridiculous. So we would have to do a better job.
You encourage businesses on Main Street,
Well, that's it.
and probably the better way to do it is to talk to the owner of the business and to ask him
To
to
no
park.
avail.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to discourage people from coming to your area. It's the same it's the same as the bakery where the barber shop across the street has parking in the back. They all park up the side and there's no parking. Some of it is common sense. And you know what? People have to realize you've got to work with the public and you've got to work with the businesses.
I don't want to discourage or hurt the businesses. I really don't. But when Main Street is empty on a Saturday afternoon, and they still have to park illegally, there's something wrong with that. Plus, they have a parking lot in the back. Maybe the businesses need to put signs, parking in the back, you know? I don't know what they need to do, but I'll tell you, if one of us gets hurt, I mean, I'm here on the record telling you, we need something done. And I'm just not, if someone gets hurt, I'm gonna blame the township, because we need to do something, we need to start enforcing this law, for us, for our safety. Okay?
We'll get you to walk on the sidewalks and not in the street also. We'll get you to walk on the sidewalks too, not in the street.
I do walk where there is a sidewalk.
Jim?
Tough meeting. Tough crowd.
The Golden Pyramid Restaurant is now on Facebook.
Oh.
Aline, an invite, or like Paige, Judy. I forgot to send Rodney one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What was that?
Invite, Golden Pyramid Restaurant is on Facebook now.
Oh.
I forgot to send you an invite. I'd like to.
Oh. All right. Well.
It should open in January or February.
We'll look forward to it.
It's on the corner of 322 and Route 50.
Okay, Jim,
Thank you.
And finally, how did John get hurt?
What?
How did John get hurt? What
How
happened
was
to
John hurt? John Kurtz.
How did he get hurt?
He was crossing the main street. He was going over to take care of some activities in the park, and he got, I don't know the specifics, but I do know that it was a bad accident.
He got hit by a car.
A very loud sound, yeah.
Well, he's asking for an answer.
I
Give him the
understand that,
answer.
but we're looking at his wife, who's not giving us a nod to say that. So,
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else in the public? Anyone else?
move to close the public portion.
Second.
That motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, before we go into executive session, I overheard Ms. Dix say, is this the first you're hearing of it in terms of the parking signs? If I can just clarify, I know
You
I've
brought it
at
up,
least said it twice on the record. One time specifically when Mrs. Davenport was here talking about some things on Pennington. And I specifically mentioned the discussions we were having and the suggestions that were made, and was it something easy we could do? And it was something easy we can do, and we all talked about it, and we're doing it. So I just want to make sure on the record it's been discussed at least twice.
Well, I would be curious if there's some kind of an ordinance or resolution to authorize putting up the signs. Because you're talking about, I don't know if they're covered, Bob, what's the MU,
MUTCD, manual and
Yes,
uniform
the-
traffic
the-
control devices.
The traffic control devices, is it controlled under that? Do we need to do something official on the record? And that was the reason for my question.
Well, I'm leaving it to the administrator. I put the suggestion to the administrator. It didn't seem to be an issue. If we need a formal action, Mike, I'm sure you'll bring it to the table.
Thank
And
you.
with that, Mrs. Anderson, if you want to read it, I'll make a motion on the resolution.
Okay, item number 12, adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Anderson,
I
would
was
you
waiting
read?
for her to read it, and then I was going to make the motion.
Mr. Jacobs, are we coming back out?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely be some action.
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining with the PBA, Teamsters collective bargaining update, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Meetings Law. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight. Okay.
Now we'll go for a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll move into the CAF.
Bob, would you speak to Phil, please?
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, based on the executive session, I'd first like to make a motion that we approve the sidebar agreement with the PBA Local 77 and authorize the mayor to sign that agreement.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are any questions or comments? Mrs. Anderson, please.
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
And Mayor Silver?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, in the matter of the personnel item, I'd like to approve the requested extension by 12 weeks, beginning December 8th through February 27th, with an understanding that this is not precedent-setting, and also with an understanding that Mr. Jacobs is going to be coming back to us with some further documentation as instructed.
Second.
Motion is second. Are there any questions or comments to the motion? Mrs. Anderson?
Mrs. Dix?
Yes.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
And Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's 9 o'clock on the dot, Joan.
Look at that.
Wow,
Thank
that
you.
was 1 minute. But